my name is Griffin Furlong. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Florida, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to use AutoCAD Civil 3D to specifically make some existing grade surfaces and a final grade surface. I would say that this is a mix between beginner and intermediate. I'm going to walk through each step of creating a surface, walking through just a little bit of tidbits of creating some surface styles. And then towards the end, if you bear with me, we will start making our final grade surface. And, depending on the length of the video, I might make a part 2, but stick around. You might pick up some good little tips along the way. But I'm ready to dive into it, so let's get to it. All right, so like I said, we received all of these existing shots from the surveyor. And typically in land development, we're coordinating with the surveyor to go out there and collect all of these shots on a grid. You typically get a person out there with a rod and, sometimes a theodolite, different types of instruments to actually get an elevation associated on each of these points. So here on this site, we got a mix of like 39.3s, 39.7s. And I'd like to mention that all of these are NAVD, which is just a vertical datum. So sometimes we'll receive a surface from a surveyor. I typically like to put the liability on them to create a surface, but just for the purposes of this video, I wanted to show you how you can actually start making a surface. So if you're not familiar with AutoCAD Civil 3D, best friend is going to be tool space up here. Your home tab, I'll say this, you can pretty much do anything you ever want with any sort of tools in this home tab. There's a lot of good features in here. Now let's see, if you didn't know where tool space was, you can go down to this command bar and do tool space. So here we'll bring up tool space. We're in this prospector tab. And if you notice, I'm in the topo drawing. So this is the drawing file right here. And I'm seeing that there's actually some points here. I'm going to go open up the point groups. And here's all the different types of point groups that we have. So in this case, the surveyor went out here a couple different times and collected points. I'm really interested in just all of the points. I want to create a combined surface of all of these points. So how would I even go about doing that? I'll show you how easy it is, guys. You click over here to surfaces. I'm going to right click, and then I'm just going to go to create surface. Now this little dialog box will pop up, and we're going to go give it a name. So I'm going to give it existing grade surface. You can give it a style, you can give it a surface layer, and again, this is just what the layer the surface is going to be on. I'm not really too worried about all of that yet. I just want to go ahead and create this surface. So now that we've created a surface, we'll have to actually define it. And you can define it by clicking some of these trees here. So let's see, how we can define a surface. We can give it a boundary, we can give it a break line, which we'll dive into that later. That's how we can, provide it feature lines. And a feature line is just a line with an elevation. We can also just give it, some polyline contours at an elevation. And then, we can also give it these point groups. So this is how I'm going to create this surface. I'm going to go to this point group. I'm going to right click and I'm going to do add. And now this dialog box will pop up and I'm just going to go to all points. And I'm going to click. And then notice how it did something here. It created a boundary of the surface based on the points that we have. So we're one step closer to building the surface. Now, the reason why we're not sort of seeing anything is because this surface is dictated by a style. A style is just the presentation of how it looks. So in order to actually create a style, like let's say if I wanted to see some contours, you're going to want to go and right click your surface that we just created. First, I just want to go to surface properties. I want to show you this dialog box first. So here we have the surface properties box. You can see your surface style right here. And I have no surface styles in here right now. This is just standard. So if you were to hop into CAD and let's say if your company didn't have standards, this is what you would see. Well, I want to go ahead and create a style. So in order to do that, you go over to this guy right here, this little arrow, and I don't really want to mess with the standard one. I'll just go ahead and copy the current, and I'm going to start making one called contours. Now, in order to actually build this thing, I usually first go to display, because display is what you want to see out of your style. So if I want to see contours, I'm going to go down this list and start selecting the major and the minor contours. User contours are something else that can be in another video, but these are going to show the major and minor break lines. Now, what you could also do in here is also show slope arrows. You can show triangles, points. I'm just going to stick to contours now. But see, now since we've displayed the contours, I really wanted to control the interval of those contours. So in order to do that, I'm going to go to this contours little dialog box here. I'm going to go to contour intervals, and I'm going to select, let's say, a 0.5. So that's half a foot interval, and then 1 foot major interval. So every major line is going to be 1 foot of contour. And you could do whatever you want here. I like to typically see 1 foot contours, maybe sometimes 2 feet. So let's see what this gives us here, guys. So perfect. So now this is the style. This is the style of the surface. So these are the building blocks of a land development project. So do you see how we have the major contours? Basically between these orange ones is 1 foot of drop. So this is an easy way to tell how many feet of drop you have. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 feet of drop. Now let's say if you didn't want these points to show up, you can easily just go up to here to the freeze, and these points are just on a layer. So you can actually freeze those if you wanted. Now for now, I actually just want to hide all of this because I don't want it to distract us making the final grade. So I'm going to copy this style, and I'm just going to make one called hidden. I'm going to make one called hidden, and I'm going to go to display, and I'm going to turn everything off. I don't want to see anything. I don't really care about it right now, because when you have it turned on, it slows down your processing power. And then I'm going to go ahead and just freeze all these points. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Just a little CAD tips and tricks, like always save. You always want to save your work because CAD can crash. So we just did a lot of work there. So it's advantageous that we save. I don't know if y'all have been following the land development series. If you haven't, you really should. I've gone over a lot about how to review different geotech reports, surveys, how to build a site plan. Here we have just a very general site plan with an entry road, a little parking lot, a pond, and some lots. I'm going to go ahead and just grab all of this line work. I'm going to do a clipboard copy. A lot of people like to do copy 0, 0, which is just copying a base point. But a little trick I know is you can just do paste to original coordinates. So I'm just right clicking, clipboard, paste to original coordinates, and it all does the same thing. Now again, just to show that our base is matching up to where our surface is, let me go ahead and turn on those contours again, just to show you guys. So go to contours, voila. So that's how our site is sitting right now. I'm gonna go ahead and just make our final surface, but we still got some work to do. I'm gonna go ahead. Sometimes I call it FG. FG means final grade or finished grade. I can also just call it final grade surface. But we don't have anything to build it off of yet. We actually need to go and make some different feature lines and add them in as break lines and then start cleaning up what's going on. I just wanted to show you guys like a basic way to make surfaces and create feature lines. As far as like going through how I would actually set all of these lows and highs and how I'm going to grade each of these lots, this is strictly just an AutoCAD Civil 3D training exercise. The first place where I actually want to start, and I'm gonna erase this hatch, it's kind of distracting. I'm gonna start with the grading of our pond, because the pond will be, an easy thing to kind of grade here. I really like starting with closed polylines. So this is the top of bank of the pond. This blue line is the normal water, and this yellow is the bottom. Now, one thing I really want is for all these to be joined. It's easier when these are all joined together, because when you start making feature lines, you'll notice how it starts helping you set different elevations. So use the join command to start joining some of these segments. And maybe you have to close some different endpoints together. So like, see if it's not joining, there must be something going on here. So a couple ways that I double check and troubleshoot, and this is actually good that that's happening. Sometimes they won't join if they have elevations. So if you type in properties, you can see if there's an elevation associated, which it doesn't look like it. Okay, so there's no elevation. So that's my first checkbox. If lines aren't joining, always check your property's elevations. But I can kind of tell, looks like we got some overlapping lines, guys. That's not good. It's not good. No wonder they're not joining. Now, just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna trim here and I'm gonna join. But this is sloppy CAD, and it's actually good that we're noticing this. So this is sloppy CAD, and the reason why it's sloppy CAD is because you want endpoints to touch. When you get a surveyor who's going to go out and stake all of these lines, you know, they need to be close, especially when you start platting, which platting's a whole different story. A surveyor's going to take all of your line work and try to make a plat out of it. And when lines don't close, that's when you run into some pickles. So always make sure endpoints touch. All right, so now is this joined? All right. Perfect. And not every line has to, I'm not going to sit here and join every line. So all right, we've made it. If you've survived this long, we're now going to make our final grade surface. I'm going to start by just using one technique that I like to do for ponds. With pond building, you don't have to go create feature lines. I'll save some feature lines for later. I actually just want to show you how easy it is to change the elevations of these. For this site, the pond top of bank is going to be at elevation 20. So all I have to do is go to my properties dialog box, click that polyline, and I'm going to go set that at 20 and then press enter. And then I'm going to keep going down. This elevation of the normal water level line is 16. And then we're going to go to a bottom of 0. So I'm actually going to keep it at 0. So now since those have elevations, I'm going to add them as contours. So let me go and add these as contours, and I'm going to give it a little description. I'm going to say pond contours. Now all of these weeding factors, you know, you can get into the nitty gritty here. I never end up changing these. Since this is more of a beginner course, I'm just going to leave those there. Now, it looks like it did something. It looks like it formed a boundary. I don't want to see that boundary. So do you remember how we were able to do different styles? I want to show you what it did with the contour style. So I'm going to press apply. And guys, we got ourselves a little surface here, but I'm going to change. I don't want to see that boundary because it's kind of distracting. So if you remember how to do this, you can go to display, and I'm going to remove that border. I don't care about the border, but I like seeing those contours. That's cool. So we got our first little surface here, and look if I hover over. So you see how there's a little dialog. It says existing grade surface is like 38.62. Final grade surface is 0. So we're going about 38 feet deep here. And obviously this design doesn't make any sense because we're setting a top of bank at 20 and then our existing grade's at 38. But I wanted to show you guys how you can make a surface. So we pretty much have some of the pond figured out. I want to show you how we can use feature lines to start grading some of this road out. I'm going to go up here to feature line, and I'm going to do create feature line from object. And then I'm going to go select which ones I want to make feature lines. I'm going to go ahead and grab those guys. And this is really important. You have different sites. You can do different sites. If you put everything on one site, that just means that everything's going to talk together, which is what I want it to do. You can have separate sites where, you know, you can have certain surfaces or sites just talk to each other and it doesn't interpolate with the other site. That's more advanced. I don't want to get into that. But typically with your jobs, you're going to want everything on the same site. So I would just choose the same site. Now, do I want to erase the existing entities? You can if you want. If you're okay with losing those center lines, you can. I'm actually okay with losing these center lines right now. Now notice how they turn blue. So that means that they've obviously have changed to something. So it looks like they have now changed into feature lines because when I select it, I get a different dialog box up here. I get feature line, and it looks like I have a couple of different things that I can do here. So in order to start setting points of a feature line, you can go to this elevation editor. You can just start entering in a whole bunch of elevations at each station. So basically each PVI or each point has a certain elevation. So each of these stations is corresponding to each of these little points right there. And let's say if you wanted to add, you know, more PVIs. So like, let's say I wanted to add like a low point in between here because, you know, I'm going to grade this road and I want water to flow down the road into some sort of inlet right here. So one thing that I can do, let me draw a circle. So I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to do control right click, and I'm going to do a parent intersection, select this line, select that line. And I want that to be the low point. So I'm going to go click on this feature line right here. I'm going to go to insert PI, and then I'm going to control right click, center. There we go. So now I've just placed a PI there. So notice if there's a little triangle there, you have a PI. I want water to grade from here, this high point, to this low point. So let's start setting some grades. I know that this pond top of bank is 20. These low points are dictated by the pond staging. So let's just start setting some of these points to, I'm going to set this one at 20. So if I just wanted to set that point at 20, I could either go to the elevation editor up here, or I can go to this nifty tool called the quick elevation edit. I really like this guy. So I'm going to press it. I'm going to hover over this point, and I clicked it, and now it's asking me to specify elevation. So I'm going to specify 20. Now that is 20. Then I'm going to hover over to here and look at this cool thing. So with the quick elevation editor, I can start grading up or down by a certain percent. So let's say if I wanted to grade up 0.5%, I can look at this arrow, and I'm going to point to this direction, and I want it to grade up 0.5. So now it's grading up 0.5%. I'm grading from 20, 0.5 all the way up to this point, and realize, look at what it did. It set that point, which is really cool. Now let's say if I wanted to grade back down 0.5, then I'm going to do 0.5. But see, this was a learning lesson. So I didn't enter in negative. So always be cautious. It went from 2105 to 2125. I actually want to go negative 0.5 because we're just going to grade straight down right into there. So now all you got to start doing, guys, is use that quick elevation editor and start kind of grading around. So I'm going to go 0.5% up, and maybe there's a low point right there. So I'm going to grade down negative 0.5, and then I'm going to grade up 0.5 again, 0.5%, and then I'm going to grade down negative 0.5, and so on. So we're starting to grade some of those low points of the road, right? And then, I mean, basically what you can start doing is you can create feature lines of all these edge of pavements. You know, one thing I might want to do is actually start building out this feature line right here. So I'm going to go to my quick elevation tool, and let's start setting some of these grades again. So I'm going to do negative 0.5, which goes to some point right there. So that could be a potential low point to then go into the pond. And then we're going to go up again, 0.5%, and go up. So that's going up. So that's like a high point right there. And then we'll go negative 0.5 to like a low point right there. But see, I'm starting to see elevations of zeros. So some of these need to be set right. It doesn't seem like this one was set. So 21. All right, so that grade's right. I'm going to set that grade at 21. This could be 20.5. So if I wanted to grade from here to there, you know, I need to pick elevations that are higher than these points right there. There's just different ways that you can do it. I mean, you can like ballpark it. Like you can do this quick elevation editor. And if you know that these elevations are in the 20s, 21s, you can just set these, you know, as higher. So you can set that as 22, slope down, you know, 2%, slope down 2%. All right. And this is all just for fun. I kind of just wanted to show you how you can start creating this stuff. I'm going to add these as break lines just to kind of show you, you know, a starting point here. So all we have to do is go to this final grade surface, click your feature lines, and we're going to right click break lines. Let's add them. And we're just going to do like parking lot. I just want to see what's going on. It might start looking whack, which it's definitely looking whack here. But it's perfect because, you know, as you start developing your first surface, you're going to be noticing these sorts of things. So whenever you see something like this is when you need to make an observation that something is whack. You have some sort of elevation that's way too low or at zero, or something's going on here. Now, in order to actually start cleaning this up, what I like to do in best practices is go to your final grade surface. Let's right click. let's create a new style. I want to copy the contours. I don't want to edit that one. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to name this points and triangles. This is the only way that you are able to clean up different surfaces and see which points are at 0. So I've named it points and triangles. I'm going to go to display. I'm going to turn off these contours for a second, and I'm only going to highlight triangles and points. That's all I'm going to show. And actually, I'm going to go back to this. So they're going to display as green and red. So all the points are going to be red. The triangles are going to be boom. So now I'm able to see all of these different points and how they're talking to each other, because that's all a surface is. A surface is just these points triangulating and talking to each other. So at some point throughout here, we have a bust. Actually, I'm going to click these feature lines again. I'm going to start hovering over each of these lines. Obviously, we have some sort of 0 line in here. There we go. We found it. I hovered over this elevation, and it's at 0. So if this is going to be inverted crown, I need this grade to be higher, and I definitely can't have it as 0. So, you know, if I want this inverted crown road to this be a high point and a grade to a lower point, let's just set something a little bit more realistic. So if this grade is like 21 and this pavement width here, this lane is about 10 feet, and I want to slope 2%, you know, that's about a 0.2 drop. So I just want to be at least 0.2 higher than that 21. So I'm going to do 21.2. Let's see what else we got. Do we have another 0? Yeah, we have another 0. So it's going to be the same thing. Let's kind of just make this like a flat curve, but it's going to start kind of making the surface make more sense. So that's 20.2. What else we got? Oh my gosh, all of this is whack. So now I want to be higher than this low point right here, the 20.73. I want to be about 0.2 higher than that, so that's 20.9. And we're just going to clean this up so it doesn't look like complete garbage. So 20.9, let's make that one 20.9. Okay, that's good. What else? Do we have any other 0 points? I think it was happening mostly all the way over there. Let's see if there's 0 points here. Is there a 0 point? Go to all the red. Go to all the red. Zeros. Oh, I think we're good. Now this should clean up. So instead of the triangles and points, let's go back to here and notice how we got some exclamation points. If you just want this to automatically build, you can do rebuild automatic. So now that we've done that, let's go to our other surface style and let's see what we got going on. All right, now it's looking a little bit more normal. I would expect this pond to have a crazy amount of contours because we're going deep, like we're going at a steep slope. All this means is this is a steeper slope because, again, all of these contours are 1 foot between each other, between orange and orange. So this is a foot of contour. So obviously this is way steeper because this is like, you know, 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet down to the normal water. Whereas like this, it's pretty like not steep at all. That's 1 foot, you know, of difference. So there's like a little grade difference break right there. That's like pretty much it. Like, you know, you can keep going with this and start building out your parking lot, and, you know, you can identify your low points, which we did. Let's say if, you know, a low point was right here, you would just want to ensure that this high point slopes down to the low point. And you can do a couple things here. You could put like working lines. So let's say if I wanted to slope from like here to like a low point right there, you can totally make this a feature line too and have it slope 2% that way. There's a million ways to skin the cat. You can do it by ballparking it. You can have, you know, a more engineering approach to it. I just kind of wanted to show you the building blocks of how you can start, you know, making some of these surfaces. Now, just as a bonus tip, let's do this. I want to show you how to cut a quick profile just to prove to you that we made a surface. Now, with quick profiles, you won't be able to save these, so please keep that in mind. So I can do a polyline command, and I'm just going to slice through here, and this will serve as our little, you know, cross section. I'm going to do quick profile. Let's do it of that, and then it's going to ask me for an origin. I'm just going to press right there, and let's see what it does. Let's see what this looks like. Might be kind of crazy. And it probably makes sense because our existing grade surface is all the way up there, and our pond's down here. But you know, these are how you can use some different tools to create cross sections. You know, I think I'm going to make a part 2 and kind of build this out a little bit more with the design intent in mind. A couple things to always pay attention to is like your road tie-in. I can show you guys how to set up some feature lines for that, and then I'll show you how to grade some of these lots to the front here of this road. But it's really just using a combination of feature lines. That's all I have for today, guys. I hope you learned something new. And if you haven't watched any of the land development series, I highly suggest you check that out. There's a lot of good information, especially for younger engineers, land developers, and even some of the construction people out there. If you ever have any questions, just shoot me a comment below and I will be happy to answer. I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
First things first, I'm the realest. Everything I start, I finish. Put my whole heart right in it.